Hey, what's up everyone? The way you make my units feel, it knocks me off my feet. How you all doing? I'm Mekkah. I'm here with Bopper. We're doing some unit feel. How's it going, Bopper?
Well, I'm ready to roll because today we're getting into selection quote meta, and
yes.
that's exciting.
I didn't want to say it right away, but you did it anyway, so here we go. What the hell is selection quote meta? What do you mean?
I don't know. I've never defined it. I never thought about it that much.
I was gonna take
makes you what?
I was gonna drink some tea while you go into a long-winded explanation. You just went, I don't know, man.
Okay, here's the explanation. If somebody says something when you pick them and you're like, that's pretty funny, then they're good. Or you like remember it. Yep. You know, I'm ready to roll. I like Kamui's feeling good.
Yeah,
if you live in it's even better if you live in the Midwest, United States, because then it sounds like this super obnoxious commercial that plays all the time in like Ohio and Indiana. Skyline chili, feeling good, must be Skyline time. I hate it so much, but every time I hear them, I can just hear that commercial. And we're not talking about Kamui though, but there you go. That's selection quote meta.
I think he might have been in the last batch, but I don't know. There was definitely a lot of echoes because those characters really stand out, so they get submitted a lot.
Yeah.
We actually don't have much echoes, but we do have a lot of fates. We have 4 fates, 2 echoes, and a bunch of 3 houses. And then as a reminder, this is Warriors Tiki. We have both played Warriors just for this submission. Just kidding. I love Warriors already.
I do love Warriors, but I do like how Tiki just kind of sticks out because it's that Shadow Dragon Tiki.
Yeah, there's actually a Warriors option for the tier list maker that I never get to use that I was like really looking forward to using for this. But it turns out it only has the Warriors exclusive characters like Blonde Girl and Blonde Mom and Blonde Boy.
Wow. That's only like 2 of the playable characters though, isn't it?
There's no
Are Warriors exclusive?
I mean they put like 2 NPCs and 2 playables, so that's it. That's the whole squad.
Wow. Dang.
Sad life. But it's okay. Everyone else is here. We have
that's rough, buddy.
Yeah, we have a bunch of conquests over here with Peri, Silas, Odin, and Arthur. We got Cliff and Zeke from Echoes. And in 3 houses, oh boy, we have Leonie, Caspar, Lasithia, Edelgard, Cyril, Ferdinand von Eyre, Mercedes, and then as we said before, we got Tiki. Everyone who submitted these, thank you a lot. Your credits will be on the side, hopefully, if I don't forget to edit it, which I haven't so far. Thank God. Whew. Okay. Conquest. We have both, I think, started Conquest, like playing it again, either just because we felt like it or for the sake of this tier list. I'm not sure which it is. For me, it's definitely this tier list. But I'm glad I did, because I'm actually really having a good time with it. Even though, and I think we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. For me, Conquest itself is kind of like a medium feels game. Because on the one hand, people have selection quotes. That's like always a big standout. And it can be a very rewarding game where you play it right. It can be very satisfying to get like an exactly correct dual strike kill, or you activate someone's skills just right, or you time the dual guards just right. But when you don't, you get punished and to go back to the preps. That's horrible. And then also I find preparing for maps, in complicated maps in Conquest, of which there are so many, to be really exhausting. My least favorite part being I set up everything perfectly for the map, I'm ready to go, and then I play the chapter and it turns out I forgot like 1 tonic that I need for something important. I have to go back, not just restart the map, but go back to my castle, get the tonic, use the tonic, and then go back to the battle map, and then I have to reposition everyone again because the game just forgets who I wanted in what spot. And that process, whenever it repeats more than once, I'm just like, oh my god, I just don't want to play this game anymore. And then there's all the stuff with like the skills that are just like, and the debuffs that are just hard to track. So I like Conquest a lot, and then nothing about it feels completely unfair, but at the same time, sometimes I just feel like it misses a bit of quality of life that would make it really easy to play and easier to plan out. I don't like staring at my screen for 10,000 hours just to prepare for it. And I'm playing hard mode, not even Lunatic. So that's been my feel for Conquest so far, but I still like it. It's just really daunting and exhausting to play. It's not a Fire Emblem game I could play to relax, if that makes sense. What about you?
I mean, I agree. I think it also hurts that like each weapon, because of infinite durability, which I do like infinite durability, but they all have their own unique effects that until the other day, like for example, I didn't know that steel weapons require 8 speed to double instead of 5 because
Wait,
the way the description.
Oh,
yeah.
I see what you
You
mean.
have to have an 8-speed advantage because
Okay,
the -3 effective speed in the description doesn't mean you have speed -3, which is how it reads. It means it actually takes you 3 additional speed to double. You're not losing speed, you're losing doubling threshold, but also doubling and getting doubled are 2 separate values in Fates for some reason. It's like I don't know. There's so many numbers that are never clearly brought out, and so many different variables, and so I'll like sit there for like 40 minutes counting out like, okay, here's my doubling thresholds I need to meet. So I'm gonna get speed tonics here, 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 and here, and then I just give up and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna buy 10 HP tonics and just pour them on everyone. Like,
yeah, that's
like,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, last thing is that when you do pull off like this sick turn where you're just really balling out, it feels so good.
Yeah, it's so rewarding when it works, but
Yeah.
getting over that bump is just the hard part. That's how you get like 30-minute battle preparation segments, which I also don't think it's very entertaining for people to watch too, which is also why I'm like hesitant on like whenever I want to stream Conquest. But you know what? Sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet.
Yeah.
We have Peri for this, and this is the one character I haven't been able to use yet because I'm still at chapter 10 in my current hard mode playthrough. So Peri is like, what, chapter, I think she's like right after like 12 or so, not very far away. But I have like briefly used her in her joining chapter. I've never used her full time, but I remember that she has that skill that like Shamir has in 3 houses with like slightly different stats. I found that one pretty difficult to make use of, like if you want to talk skills and being able to pull them off. It's pretty cool when you actually get to, but there's generally only 1 player phase action per character, and then because Conquest enemies are so daunting, usually there's also only 1 enemy phase action per character, unless they're really, really good, like Xander. So I found it pretty hard to pull off with Peri to actually make use of that. And then Peri herself, I think, is a perfect emblem of that old Fort tagline where it's like, you know what, it's fine if people say bad shit about me as long as they spell my name right. Every bit of bad publicity you get is good publicity. It doesn't matter if it's actually bad or not. I'm phrasing this horribly, but basically what it means is Peri is controversial, but that means everyone knows who the hell Peri is. So Peri still gets more votes in something like Choose Your Legends from Heroes compared to someone with a more, I don't know, a lower profile, I'll say. Someone from the DS games, or someone like Glade from FE5 who got almost no votes whatsoever. Because Choose Your Legends is just basically it's all about upvotes. There are no downvotes. So someone controversial like Peri is still going to get a lot of upvotes and get in the spotlight that way. That's why it looks like Peri is more popular than a lot of other characters that are like more neutral, whereas Peri is like complete psychopath bitch. I'm not a big fan of Peri personally, because I don't really like psychopaths all that much. They're just, I don't know, maybe uncontroversial opinion, maybe unpopular opinion. I generally don't really like psychopaths. So I've never really enjoyed using Peri, and I've never really used Peri full time. I don't have a very good first impression of her, and I don't really like her reputation, and I can't ever say I've been a fan of Peri in any capacity. So for me, I mean, yeah, that sounds like a good thing. No, just kidding. It sounds like I feel bad to me, but I've never really tried, so it's a bit unfair. But I'd probably end up putting her in the red zone. What about you?
Yeah. So the highest difficulty I've ever played Conquest on is hard. I've never done Lunatic, and in hard mode, I'll say that because one-rounding enemies is not nearly as important, because there's just not as many just like savage blow and things like that just are gonna annihilate your HP if you don't kill enemies outright. I find that Peri does get to do like a few more things, which is kind of nice. It's easier to like set up kills and then try to take advantage of Bloodthirst. But Bloodthirst is one of those things I find where, okay, if you want to really take advantage of it, you have to do a lot of math, and you have to like do a lot of perfect placement, which, strategy game on a grid, that's kind of the whole thing. But it is like, it's a ton of work that you're putting in for what is ultimately to me like kind of meager benefits, which makes her kind of like, it feels like generic Cav sometimes. But like you said on the design, she's sitting right here next to Silas, and we can say whatever you want about their characters. Like, those are 2 entirely different designs, where like all I know about Silas from this is that he has some kind of hair product. Dude buys pomade. There you go. Eats surf and turf. Like, whereas Peri does have this very distinct design and personality that, regardless of what you think about it, and it's questionable, is, I guess, fun for the right person.
It stands out in the most literal way possible, where it doesn't even fit inside a square of a portrait.
Yeah, I guess. And Bloodthirst, that's some cool Ludo narrative. She's a lunatic psychopath, and her skill reflects that. So that's kind of cool, I guess.
I like that. I like that it reflects her exactly so much as to get like 1 kill per turn. Like a second one doesn't make her any more stronger. So this is 1 kill per turn. That's all she needs. It's like an apple a day keeps the doctor away, except it's blood per day or whatever, blood per turn.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it's not as funny as Reyna's personal skill, which is literally just drinking the blood of the person you kill.
Wait, what's hers again?
Reyna's is the one that if you kill, it's like she recovers HP.
Oh, right.
The icon is like the blood chalice.
Isn't it like a really meager amount too, where it's like she's like 5 HP or something?
It's like 20. It's like 10 or 20% HP, but with like Fate's HP, it's not that much.
Yeah, Fate's
but it's still
HP
cool.
So low.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put her in bad. Not many people will mind this. Maybe the person who submitted her.
Yeah, I don't know. She's the character I have like the least familiarity with in Conquest, because I've only used her to try to prepare for this video, and I was like, Cav.
I mean, Cavs are good. They got like good skills and everything. Like the elbow room and the shelter, they're really useful.
Yeah.
And I think she joins with both, so at least that's nice.
She does.
Yeah. But like, just using the generic Cav skills is not a great way to get unit fuel, in my opinion. Okay, how about that Silas though? How about that hair product?
On my honor as a knight.
Ah, yes, that's a good quote though.
Yeah, I do like the quote. I find myself that I make fun of Silas all the time, and that's honestly more than I can say about, I don't know, other Cavs in the series, like Roderick, because he's I don't remember. He's like an NPC in like one of the games, but he's a green unit.
He's green,
yeah. But Silas is like, okay, he joins super early in Conquest, which is nice. So he's like there to do things that are like when you're getting overwhelmed in that faceless, nameless monster chapter. And so like, okay, good first impression right there. And then he just never plays bad the whole time. I find that the biggest thing that just makes me always be like, I don't really want to use Silas is that because he's around so long and he's got that really good pair up skill with Corrin, that I'm always like on the verge of S supporting Silas, it feels like. So I have to like go out of my way to not use him because I'm like, I don't want to use Silas this time.
Wait, he has a support skill for Corrin? Isn't his personal vow of friendship where he gets if Corrin gets to half HP, he gets like +3 damage done, and -3 in damage taken. I think you might be confusing it with Jacob's skill. Not sure though.
Well, no, because his is what? His is supported with Corrin. So what I'm saying is like they sort of spend some time around each other early on, where like their supports get built up really big for me every run. And then I have to go out of my way to like not use him because I always want to try like some different characters to like S support with. And then his face sucks and I don't like it, and he's a robot. But he does say, I know this is Conquest Silas, but I love his boss dialogue in Birthright.
What does he say?
When he's like talking about our memories growing up as childhood when we used to have surf and turf together.
Wait, what?
Which is
I don't believe you. I don't think he says that shit. Does he say that shit?
He does. He says that. He says 100%. He says we had surf and turf when we would eat surf and turf, which is like such a weirdly specific thing that I want to know if that's translation or if he says that in the Japanese version as well. Somebody who knows the script can inform.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Don't believe me about the roast him in the comments, please, because this dude says surf and turf in Birthright.
That's the one thing that says about Birthright. I guess I might have blocked a bit of Birthright from the memory. I don't know why. But this is specifically requested to be Conquest Silas, though, fortunately. I don't have the same experience as you do where like Silas gets built up with Corrin very quickly. I have noticed that they get like a C support fairly quickly because, I mean, they're around, so it kind of happens naturally. What I've noticed with Silas is that he gets a lot better if you activate his personal, but in order to do that, you have to make Corrin hurt to get him back to half HP, and that's like, it's really fun when it works, but it's hard to make work sometimes in some situations, depending on like what Corrin is. So in the early game, it's not super difficult to do. Corrin's like really good, and with the auto kind of fast, and then with the Dragonstone really bulky, so you can kind of usually make it so that he gets to low HP, or she gets to low HP. And then Silas is popping off. He gets effectively +3 strength and +3 defense plus res. It's really, really strong. And it makes him like RNG proof almost, where I feel like a lot of people say about Silas, like, oh, he's like so coin flippy. Like if he gets like slightly speed screwed or slightly strength screwed, he's just worthless. Or if he gets really RNG blessed, he's very good. And like, I feel like Silas is actually like very RNG proof in that regard because Vow of Friendship is so reliable. But what I have a problem with currently is I have found a new way to suffer from success. I reclassed my Corrin to Draconite, which boosts his defense to like 5,000. And so he doesn't take enough damage for Silas to pop off and get his personal skill going. So now my Silas is worse because my Corrin is better. And that made me realize there's a bit of dilemma going on here where, like, unless you're very eagerly micromanaging Corrin's HP to be at low HP but not so low that he's dead, you're generally limited to using either Silas to his full potential or Corrin, but you're rarely using both. And I mean, Corrin is kind of good, so I don't really like handicapping my units. But at the same time, I do think it's really fulfilling when you get Corrin to half HP, and then Silas is popping off. You're like, ah, yeah, I got it to work exactly right. And you can do something like get Corrin hurt and then make him a para partner for someone else, and then it doesn't really matter very much that he's on low HP because Corrin's in the back, and Silas can just like murder everything. I do find that Silas is like doubling issues, but I think, like you said before with Peri, it doesn't really matter that much that he does not like one-running enemies. That's usually not what Conquest is all about. And generally, Silas works out pretty well. It's pretty satisfying. Calf skills are good. All my honors and knight, I mean, it's kind of cheesy. This particular list doesn't have a whole lot of knights, but there's like 5,000 of these honorable, loyal knights to lords or whatever in the series. It doesn't really stand out very much. But Silas is kind of enjoyable to use. I don't want to say fun or good or anything. I am working on like getting into other classes, but I haven't gotten so far that I can like turn him into a ninja or like a soul hero or whatever yet. So I've only just really used him as a cav. So right now for me he's medium, but I can see him like move up in good if he like really turns out well.
I know that people love Soul Master Ninja. If you like A+ him with Kaze, I know that that's like a popular thing that can be really ridiculous and funny. I guess last thing on Silas is that on the Corrin skill on Vow of Friendship, I don't often find that I just want Corrin to be nearly dead. I mean, early on in the game.
Depending on what voice you have on Corrin, sometimes I do want him dead though.
Yeah, sometimes you do. I think the one I've got on my current run, I'm like, I want Corrin so dead right now.
Is it the lighthearted, the light-pitched anime voice? The girl?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I accidentally picked that one. I think I overcycled the menu.
I'm like, sorry.
I hate it so much. But, like, I don't know. Things like King of Grappling or Vengeance or Persecution Complex where you, like, damage yourself to get a benefit is, like, really fun and satisfying. I don't find it fun or satisfying to sandbag somebody else to give benefits to a different character. Especially in a game like this where I don't want Corrin early on just one hit from death. With these kind of enemies running around. If that makes sense. So
in a way, it's very counterintuitive because Silas is all about protecting Corrin. You'd think he'd be stronger if Corrin was like in good shape and not like on the brink of death. But I guess he's like going in hyper mode because his boy is about to die. That's probably the idea. But it's just funny
that
Master. He benefits from hurting Corrin.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready for the one and only Odin fucking Dark? This is by far the character that I've improved upon, that my opinion has improved upon when it comes to Fates. I used to like not care about him at all. Then I realized just how fucking hilarious and funny he is, and now I can just not let him go. Like, he and Arthur are, I think, by like a long shot, my favorite characters from all of Fates, if not all of 3DS Emblem. They're so fucking funny. Yeah. And then Odin especially, he just goes completely over the top. And I've said it before, but if you have a game where everyone is a little exaggerated, a little, for lack of a better word, anime or whatever, a little bit Fates Awakening, you might as well just go all out and just make it funny instead of trying to be nuanced about it. There might be more nuance in the supports, but from what I've seen, which is mostly like voice lines and the introduction lines, this is really the impression you get of them, and then Odin has by far the best one. Like in a game where everyone is extra, someone who's like extra is just the absolute best. I have him for like several donation messages on my stream. I quote him all the fucking time. someone just saying my darkness is darker than yours is just so funny and childish to me that I just can't get over it. He's like, welcome to my fell stormfront. Whatever the hell he says.
I love that one so much.
You pass your test whenever he's like in someone's backpack and they kill him before he does.
Yeah.
I was gonna do that. He's just so eager to get in there and fight. And he probably cares why, but he doesn't really say that. It's just kind of like, I could really buy the headcanon that someone posted once where all of Fates is basically just Odin telling someone like a very tall story. I can really buy that, because that's what Fates sometimes feels like. He is so funny. I love Korn so much. And then it used to be that Odin was like considered not very good. Like my first playthrough, on someone else's advice, I made him a Myrmidon early on. I reclassed him because that's what he can hard seal into because of his awakening appearance, which is so funny. And then he was very bad, unsurprisingly. And then it turns out that he's actually like really good as a mage. Just the class he joins as, like the Dark Mage class, just use Nosferatu. I like the idea that like, you know, Nosferatu was very broken in Awakening, so they nerfed it to hell and back in Fates. But no one told Odin, so he still dominates normal and hard mode with it, and even Lunatic if you go about it the right way. And then it's really satisfying to just put him in there. And I remember on your charity stream once, I think it was on normal mode, and I was given the controls because we were doing that thing where you pass the controls around, and I just bought Nosferatu, gave him a couple tonics, paired him up with like Elise for some defense bonuses, and then we just walked into chapter 9, and I just started killing everything with Odin, and Nosferatu was just never dying ever. And you were like, wait, this is really busted. And like, yeah, this is really busted. This is really stupid. This is turn your brain off to play Conquest. Who else can do that? That's so satisfying. Because the way it usually goes with Nosferatu and like Dual Guard for me is Odin will like take a hit, and then Nosferatu's back and he gets some health back. And he's also gotten like 4 points of guard gauge. So he fills it up to like, I think it needs to be a 10 to proc. And then another enemy hits him and he just gets the HP back, and he's at 8 guard gauge. And then at some point he's gonna have like maybe low HP, but then he has the guard gauge. He just gets all his HP back, and it just repeats over and over. It's so mean and so funny, and like enemies can't dual strike him because he's in pair up mode and everything. So satisfying and smooth. You can solo entire chapters like that. Might not be the most optimal way to do it, but it sure as hell is one of the funniest ways to play Conquest. It's so hilarious, and I don't know, I actually think it's pretty good. I'm definitely going to use him in my current playthrough, definitely going to use him on my next playthrough, and probably every playthrough I ever do with Fate. He is so fucking funny. His darkness is darker than yours. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, so the first time I played Conquest, I was like, Odin is trash, unusable, terrible garbage. And this was like 2016 when the game came out. And then, yeah, in my most recent playthrough, I'm like, okay, I know Mekkah loves Odin. I know people love Odin. I know I saw those normal mode Nosferatu shenanigans. So let's try this out on hard mode and see. Like, just on paper, without getting into his character, he does surprisingly have a lot of bulk, even without Nosferatu, which is super nice. But then you're like, okay, wait, we got Nosferatu. We've got these great battle quotes. He's completely ridiculous. It's just beautiful in every single way. In my current run, I'm pairing him up with Elise so that I can turn him into a butler. I don't know if that will destroy him or not, but I'm gonna stuff 2 arm scrolls on him so that he can run around giving Gentelli home and throwing flame shuriken around.
What the hell?
That's my goal.
That's such a weird ass build.
Yeah. But that, I mean, I don't know. I need a healer, and Butler Odin fills that bill while also being in a butler costume. So
isn't there a magical healing class somewhere that you can use? I don't know.
There is. No, there is, but those don't put him in the butler costume.
That's fair. That's
screaming. My darkness is darker than yours. And also with Gentelli home, it just turns him into a lady killer as well, which, you know, is the exact opposite of what I imagine this dork actually being. But yeah, I'm completely in agreement with you, by the way, that Odin and Arthur are like the 2 best Fates characters. Pretty much bar none, because they are so, like, I do love that Odin just leans full into, like, if we're gonna be ridiculous here and like just have these completely broad-stroked characters, we might as well just have a ton of fun with it. And that's what Odin is. He's just a ton of fun in a game that I find I usually just only get enjoyment out of laughing at. Like, I feel like I'm laughing with Odin. But also, last thing I want to mention on him is that personal skill, Aching Blood. Fantastic
my
name.
aching blood.
Fantastic
Unquenchable
name.
bloodthirst.
I love how it's the one skill I can think of in the series that takes advantage of something that is complete, like a mechanic that usually doesn't matter. I love that it's based off of the name of a forge, because it gets you to like, okay, from like a teach the player the game perspective, it's like, okay, we're going to teach you how to use forges this way, but also you have to have a very specific forge name where it's 10 characters long, and you know you're just going to be going for something like edgy or like darkness kind of driven. And I don't know, I love that his skill takes advantage of the most menial mechanic in the game, but then it's completely free.
Strike the sacred stone!
Can you forge Nosferatu?
No, you cannot forge Nosferatu, unfortunately. Which is,
but even if you do, it just turns out like if you forge like fire, thunder, or something, he just becomes this like nuke.
Yeah, it gives him all of +10 crit. Very, very powerful.
Yeah, it surprisingly comes into play, I find, a lot, because even though enemies and fates have luck, it's only half crit avoid in this game. So like he's usually rocking like 15, 16 crit. And because, at least on hard mode where I'm not concerned about just one-rounding everything, he's usually attacking enemies first. And so sometimes he'll just kill an enemy. You know, like 1 out of every 5 or 6 enemies he'll just one-shot them. And it's like, hey, that feels nice. That feels good.
Yeah.
That feels like unit feel.
Yeah. I used to think that was like very important for Odin to actually progress personal skill and get +10 crit, but now that I know how good Nosferatu is, especially with like Vantage, I kind of just don't want to use anything but Nosferatu, especially because if he crits, he actually cheats himself out of some dual guard. So like if he were to like hit someone instead of doubling, that actually ruins his dual guard sometimes. So I don't use that skill anymore and probably don't plan to. But it's really funny when it works, especially because Odin's crit quotes are also really good.
Yeah, I think it matters if it's like, if you're intending to Juggernaut with him or not. Like, I'm not intending a Juggernaut with him, so getting him completely insane with Nosferatu is like not super important. But I do like him setting up kills for Arthur.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I guess he just steals those kills with Aching.
Yeah, I was about to say that actually stopped you from getting kills with Arthur sometimes. But I guess you could just like get a different enemy down for him.
Yeah, but then getting a kill on Odin doesn't feel bad though.
No, never does.
I'm still satisfied.
You passed your tests. Alright, I went first on Odin. You feel free to go first on Arthur.
Okay, Arthur's my Odin. He's my favorite character in Fates. I was having a bit of a despair moment when I was doing a practice hard mode run, because I was like, oh my god, does Arthur have the worst unit feel in Fire Emblem Conquest other than Izana? And I was like, yes. But then I played the game again for the stream, and I'm like, no, never mind. Because at first I was really off-put by like the Arthur doubling down on like having terrible luck, where okay, he has like 1 base luck, so he's always facing these low percent crits. And then also, if you stuff the goddess icon on him that you get in like chapter 3, it doesn't matter because his personal skill gives him -5 crit avoid. And you can't take it off. So like, that's pretty fantastic. I love that. So he's just always, he gets the gamble skill. And then even if you take that off, it doesn't matter because you're still gambling, because he always is facing low percent crits. But Justice reigns. You have my support.
Justice reigns.
His hero. I don't know if Hero's art counts towards unit feel, but I'm gonna say it does. His special attack art in Heroes is like my favorite Heroes art. It's even got the ridiculous Fates axe. Just so fantastic. And he's one of the few characters. I say this. I've not studied the child characters too deeply, because when I pulled Conquest characters and I saw Dwyer come in last place, I was like,
good.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
I know, right?
Or Valoria or Ignatius.
They're just making up characters, don't worry. They don't exist.
Yeah, at this point, I'm like, Ignatius sounds like a Shadow Dragon generic. I don't know what that's doing in Conquest.
He is. They can't even make up a name anymore.
Yeah. But Percy's personal skill like synergizes with Arthur like so well that if you're somebody that gets really into like I'm gonna develop the child units and like pair them up that way, like Arthur and then Percy, you just have like the most adorable, amazing like synergy of 2 characters in the game.
What does Percy's personal do?
Percy's personal is allies within 2 space get crit avoid +5 or crit avoid +15 or something. It completely cancels out Arthur's.
Good.
And then also just makes Arthur ridiculously good, because I think it has some other like benefits as well, like +15 crit or something. So if you want to go really silly with Arthur, so I don't know, everything about it is just fun. And then he can go Great Knight from his base class, and then you can stick Effie on him and have him. Because my current Arthur is going to be a hero with I think HP +5, defense +2, elbow room, natural cover, and soul. And he's gonna tear up people, and I love it.
Invincible.
And that hair, and that chin, good chin feel.
Good job, sidekick. Yeah, Arthur, whenever I use him, he's usually a backpack because his parry bonuses are so good that I feel bad whenever he goes to the front almost, because he gets like +4 strength and +2 speed whenever he pairs up to someone. Probably more when he's like actually leveled or promoted or reclassed or whatever. But every time that man opens his mouth, I just can't help but smile, because he just says the most supportive things ever. You can't not laugh whenever Arthur opens his mouth. It's so good. And then when he fights, it's like a bit of a different story, because, I mean, like you said, it's always a gamble to attack with him considering his accuracy and getting crit. I bought a bronze axe basically for him and Elise, just they just don't die to a crit sometimes, or just don't get crit, which has helped a little bit. I'm trying to raise him a bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to use him full term or long term, but fortunately, Fate's XP curve is very friendly towards trying out units, and then if they don't work out, you just ditch them anyway. Because on the level units get like fairy XP, even levels you get like fairy XP, and then when you're over leveled by a bit, it cuts off really harshly. So there's not much of a benefit to using. There's not as much benefit to using the same people over and over as opposed to just trying out characters, which I really like. Even in Lunatic, that's very balanced, and I enjoy that. So, I mean, I agree with almost everything you said. I haven't tried out Arthur long term yet. He's always been kind of a pair bot that I pair with Effie to get Percy, and that's kind of about it. But I'm really looking forward to actually like see if I can train him, because if I can turn him into a berserker, he'll be something else. He'll be a glass cannon, but he'll work out as a glass cannon. He'll destroy everything in sight for sure. And I just don't have much to add. Like, the guy is just super funny. I personally don't like his hero's art, but I do like his cipher art, so that kind of compensates for it. So in a way, I have enough justification to put him in good. He's passed his test as well.
I will say, last thought on Conquest. I guess two things. One, for people who say that Conquest has no Jagan, I would like them to explain the Bronze Axe. And also, I think that it's probably the game where it has the most consistently good unit feel in the series. Like, I've not used any character and been like, I'm just really not having a fun time trying to use them, because everybody's at least competent enough initially.
I thought you said Izana had bad unit feel.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he shows up at like chapter 23, and you have to build up like level 3 Sana. Like, Izana, nobody even remembers that he's playable.
True.
I've never heard anybody talk about Izana. He's a meme, but for the most part, I think it has the most consistently good cast in the series, where like you can pick anybody that's your favorite for any reason and like just have a good time with them.
Yeah.
More easily than any other game, I think.
Yeah. It is a game that I think you I find it hard to get into sometimes because of all these accessibility issues that I mentioned, like the harsh time, like how harsh the mechanics can work against you if you don't properly manage them, the skills, the debuffs and everything. But I also like see that whenever it does work out, it feels really good. So the more you're familiar with Conquest, the better it will feel, and that will really stack with what you mentioned before, I think, where once you're familiar with it, you can really experiment really heavily with like hard seals, reclass options, skills, etc. And so it will probably feel better every time you play it again. I'm already having much more fun with it now than I had the previous 2 playthroughs I did, and I'll probably continue stacking up. So I really understand now why fans of Conquest will defend their favorite game like that. It's good closing thought. Okay, I went last on Arthur. So we're getting to Echoes. This is one of my favorite games by far. Selection quotes first of all, but also just fantastic cast all around. Like you said you like Conquest. I like Conquest cast, but I love the Echoes cast because they're so lively. The voice acting for the full game, it really brings them to life. They're so fantastic. Customizable to just the right amounts. I played like a couple games with without the pitchforks, and I played with the pitchforks, and those make the cast just enough customizability in there to have a refreshing time while still enjoying the same units over and over. And the game is just, I know the gameplay, like the map should feel bad, but for me, I kind of just enjoy brainlessly going through them. You would think that would work for Birthright or something like that for a while, but I think it works better in Echoes. I can't really explain very well why. I don't know, the fact I just like the cast a lot. And I remember the person who submitted Cliff in particular was like, I'm curious how the villagers affect unit feel, because villagers are like the ultimate subjective experience, I think, because everyone just makes their Cliff and their Grey and their Tobin and their Atlas differently, because you can go different paths with them. And I think that's an interesting question. So for me, I've done Archer Cliff twice, once for my first playthrough, or actually my Let's Play, and once for a draft that I did, a Soyo draft, where someone else had to pick their classes for you, so they picked Archer Cliff for me. And I know he's also like really good as a mercenary, because everyone's good as a mercenary. And Mage Cliff I did for my Iron Man, and I found it really, really bad feel, because mages just kind of have pretty low stats, and the early chip is good, but Cliff works like much better as like a long-term project, I think, because he's the best final stats overall. And in that way, like Grey is even a better mage. But everyone, like a lot of people insist Mage Cliff is good, and I'm like, dude, this is just trash. He's such bad stats as a mage. It's so awful, and his spell list is like so shitty, dude. It's so bad. He's like, you get like Tobin gets like Excalibur so much earlier. I'd much rather go mage with like Tobin than with Grey. But I think with the way that unit field works for villagers, like even like just tiering them in general, it's like, okay, it's better to think of Echoes units, I think, as classes that you assign a portrait to than characters you assign a class to. Because when you think about it, you want a mercenary somewhere, and you want a mage somewhere, and you probably want an archer somewhere, and you just have to decide who goes with that. And if you whether you use villagers for that or pitchforks, it always works out roughly the same way. I also tried out Cavalier Cliff on my very first playthrough. That felt really bad, because I used him for like the first part, and I tried to use him for the third part, for the third act, but he was just so bad that I just wanted to bench him, because it doesn't even feel rewarding to train him at that point, because he gets like 10 XP per kill, or like 20 maybe, but getting a kill on him alone is such a pain in the ass that is like, it gets in that cycle where it just doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
I do think in general the villagers feel really good, because you can just kind of make them your own experience. So they're customizable, but not like so much that you're like dazzled by all the options. You just pick one class early on to try them out, and if you don't like it, you can just do something different next playthrough. So they're just the right amount of customizable. So for me, I'd say Cliff is good just because of that. I don't think you can. If Cliff feels bad, that's probably just because you don't like the class that much. But Cliff in general is just a funny character. One last anecdote I will say about Cliff before I'll let you say your part. There was a part in my Let's Play with Bismix where Cliff was like this initial battle quote where he was like, he was gonna crit a guy, so he's like, "You're watching," and then he crit the guy in the face, and the enemy was like, "No!" And then Cliff was like, "Yeah!" It's perfect for a YouTube clip. That was one of the funniest parts of Echoes for me, which adds to Cliff's good unit feel for me. So that's Cliff. Good.
You know, in my most recent run of Echoes in my Iron Man, Cliff, I think, got the most kills in the game, because he was my archer. I let my patrons pick what all my villagers went, and Cliff, archer doesn't need to be. You don't need anything to be good as an archer. And so I know you said that like stats are like, or you should take classes, you assign a portrait to them. I actually think that Cliff has the best unit feel for me of all the villagers, because his base luck of 11 gets him out of the horrible Alm route problem of everybody just faces 2% crit all the time.
That's true, especially against the dark mages.
Yeah, like later on, like when you get to part 3, part 4, it gets so bad. And playing an Iron Man on it got so miserable because I was like just having little panic attacks before every single player phase, because my only character that wouldn't face crits is the guy who's just shooting Hunter's Volley from 5 spaces away. It's like, oh, it was so miserable. Alm's route got down to, I think, 4 characters at one point, which was really sad.
They really put the fear of death back into you with those crits.
They really did, because I think I had on the witch map where like the person's like conjuring up witches and there's those barons from hell coming in. I think 2 characters in a row got killed by 2% crits on consecutive enemy actions.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I had a lot of people died at like 0% crits on Echoes.
Yeah. It's just a big thing in that. So like I love like the safety blanket that is like Cliff. But everything in Echoes really has just great feel to it. The crit quotes are fun. Like if you go mercenary, you have those really fun Dreadfighter animations. Archer, just it feels fun, even if you don't know Hunter's Volley is a thing. Like it's your first time playing the game, you've never looked up anything. It's really fun to just shoot people from like 5 spaces away. It feels like cheating in Fire Emblem to just be able to do that. And it's a ton of fun. And if I'm not mistaken, you don't take like the hit penalties you do in 3 houses. So like you just unencumbered, you're just shooting people from 5 spaces away. But yeah, I do find that of the villagers, Cliff is probably my second favorite unit feel in the game, just because of that 11 luck. Number 1 will always be Faye for Gold Knight Faye.
Good old all support.
Yes.
Okay, unfortunately, no Faye here, but we do have Zeke. Zeke, the man with the low voice. He's got Patrick Seats as his voice actor, the same guy who did Yuritsa. You're first, though.
Yes. So Zeke, I learned to appreciate him a lot in my Iron Man because I really needed anyone. I needed any warm body I could throw out there.
Wait, you're a blue person I can control. You're in.
Yeah, get in there. Zeke's in like kind of this weird thing. He's not really okay. He's like not a Gato. But I want to like address Gatos for unit feel because I always find that these late joining really good characters sometimes struggle to stand out in unit field because they have absolutely no arc to them other than they are RNG proof safety blankets to make sure players can beat the game comfortably, which does have some amount of satisfaction. But at least in my first playthrough of the game when it released, Zeke just kind of was because he was good enough to work, but compared to trained Matilda or trained Foresight, he just wasn't doing things that that stood out a ton, and he just did not have a ton of time to really become like just this part of the army I was really attached to, like the Ram villagers who've been there from like the very beginning. Although I did have a lot more fun with him in my Iron Man run because I had to use him. Forged him a lance, the Gratahu, while Foresight had the Gratavu from the Blessed Lance. When you know the deep lore of Fire Emblem, the deep lore, he becomes a lot more fun because you're like, oh, this is Siryu, this is Camus, this is I don't know, maybe that makes the pronunciation of Zeke actually Zoo, but I'm not sure.
It's pronounced Zoo.
Yes. They should have had that be like a young Frankenstein moment in his supports where Tatiana's like, Zeke, and he's like, it's pronounced Zoo. But yeah, like fun to use, doesn't hurt, but I find he just does not have enough time to be around to feel like really great. But he's still fun. Like not bad, but just not around enough for me.
So like a medium-ish for you.
Yeah, because like I don't remember like his selection quotes or anything because there's just not enough time for him to be super memorable.
Oh, I can't remember his either. It's because I don't deploy him enough either. That's like his problem. I agree with you. He doesn't have enough time. I think he is, like you said, he's in that weird spot for like late joining pre-promotes where he doesn't stand out enough, even though he's like pretty good. He's really strong, but he's just not good enough to really stand out. Like we had a couple of like good late joining pre-promotes on here. I think Pent is the primary example where they are so good that they stand out to everyone that they're good. I think Percival's like similar in that regard. But someone like, I don't know, Cecilia or Igren or Zeke, they're just not good enough to overcome that mountain they have to climb of comparing to units that have been around with you all game. That's a really tough hill to get over, I think. And for Zeke, there's one thing I really appreciate about him though, and that's his joining condition. The fact that you have to go through Nui Baba's abode to get him and Tatiana it should be the death sentence for his unit field because you don't want to play those maps. But the fact that his village, where you recruit him afterwards, everyone there fucking hates your guts if you don't save him and Tatiana. They're like, oh my god, you killed Zeke, you monster. Go on out, get the fuck out of here. Kind of like the guys in FE5 chapter 6, like the villages. If you go and save their children, they will just be like, dude, get the fuck out of here. What kind of liberation army are you? I think that's like really good Luna narrative, as you would put it. And that saves him in that regard. But I still have trouble like really having an impression of Zeke because I just haven't used him enough to have a great impression. And whenever I did use him, I was like, it's alright. I will say that it's nice that he saves you from training him, because training units and echoes that just won't promote no matter how much fucking effort I put into them is one of the worst parts about echoes. I mentioned before that I used Cliff as a cavalier, and I tried pushing him so hard, but people that don't one round or just don't have Hunter's Volley take so long to promote. I mostly have this with cavaliers, like unpromoted cavaliers. Mages have this especially bad because they promote at like level 25,000, and then what other classes have this problem? Archers not as much because archers are just super busted when they get the killer bow.
Yeah.
It's mostly mages, calves. Mercenaries is kind of broken no matter what with the lightning sword at first and then dread fighter later. So there's usually fine. What other classes exist? Soldiers, knights, I guess, kind of, but those are like, it's either Forsyth, who is just hilarious, so you don't mind training him up a bit, and then they're like Lucas, who's like completely invincible, or like reclass, like you have like Valbar. If you keep him as an armor knight, that's just fun to use.
Yeah.
Like, generally, knights work out okay no matter what, because at least they can enemy phase a lot, so they still get experience that way.
Yeah, and you can give them the Saurion lance for effective +3 movement.
Oh yeah, the Sonyon, yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff helps too. But for Cavaliers, such a thing doesn't really exist. So training them is miserable, and then Zeke saves you from that. So that's pretty alright. But I still I can't justify him above medium for me. I think that's gonna be where I put him. It's like, he's okay. He's alright.
Yeah. I will say his, you mentioned the joining village. I also think his recruitment condition is one of my favorite maps in Echoes. How he just, like, if you show up with Tatiana, he just turns green and starts killing the map for you.
Oh, yeah. That just kind of becomes a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the
so
easiest
I love
maps.
that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And then the map is different if you don't have Tatiana. Like, he's just red. You just have to kill him too. It's like super harsh. And his whole fleet too. You get more experience that way though.
Yeah, you know, it's more Zeke has good unit feel when he becomes EXP for Forsyth.
They become one.
Yes.
He eats Forsyth.
Yeah.
Or rather, Forsyth eats him. Yeah.
There's no chance. Zeke v Forsyth is the most one-rounded brawl in history. Arcanaya would have been different had it been a Forsyth that washed back up to become Siryu.
Definitely.
But yeah, no. And rip Clive's one level between Cav and Paladin.
Oh, yeah.
Since you mentioned it, that might be the biggest tragedy in Echoes for unit feel, is that one level.
Yeah, poor Clive. I definitely want to discuss Clive at some point. He's not on there though, unfortunately. I think he might have been in the last one, I forgot. It's been such a while since we did season 1, but I feel like he might have been in there. I
don't remember who.
I know one of my patrons, Peeved, really loved discussing Clive, because like everyone, I read a Twitter thread a while ago about Clive and why his unit feels like, I asked the Twitters like, hey, what do you think of Clive? Just an open-ended question. I got so many different answers. It's really interesting. Yeah. But I can't get into it because we still have units to feel here. Yeah. We have more than 3 characters left, even though it is 3 houses. We have more than 3 characters. Yeah. But I don't know if we'll have time for more than 3 characters. So that's roughly my aim for this time, because we've been going for like 48 minutes. Usually I try to keep this around an hour. So we'll do a couple, and then we'll finish it off next time with the remaining 3 houses and Warriors Tiki. So 3 houses. My last playthrough was a long while ago, I gotta admit, but I played it so many times that I think I have enough of a grasp on these units. I enjoy that we have a couple of golden deers on here. My first playthrough was golden deer, so got some experience in that regard. It's been a while since I played Maddening. I really dislike the way Maddening feels. I appreciate the nuances it brings to gameplay. It makes combat arts and skills matter a lot, and that's something I really miss when I play hard. So 3 houses really doesn't have a great difficulty that feels good to play. Yeah. And then, especially the early game with the 4-move squad all around, is just so tedious and annoying to replay over and over. It's the game that begs to be replayed, but then replaying it just doesn't feel good because it's so repetitive. I think that's a super cold take at that point for 3 houses. But yeah. I just wanted to mention that it kind of impacts these characters. They still have selection quotes and full voice acting though, which is such a huge wound to every one of these. Leonie especially, I have a big weakness for her voice acting. Not specifically like throughout the entire game, but I do really love that, I said this every time Leonie comes up, but she has a little voice line after, your dad dies, you just fire him after all. she's like crying while she voice acts, and it's really well done. I forgot what exactly she says, but I remember it was like, this is the best example of this game's voice acting by far. And then otherwise, I just appreciate Leonie's realness in support conversations. Three Houses does a really good job of kind of making supports the forefront and bringing the characters to life. It really slows down your playthrough a bit if you watch them all the time, because it takes so long for all the voice acting to happen. But at least they expose all the supports to the players. I feel like, especially for the GBA Fire Emblems, the supports are kind of like a thing you have to go for actively, and like go out of your way to see them at all. And in Fates, it kind of does a fairly good job too, but then Fate's support quality is so inconsistent. Like, I'm not even gonna say it's bad overall because I have to read them all. I just know that some of them are just kind of ugh. But it takes such a long time to read them all and everything. But for Three Houses, it pushes into the format really well, and that really works for me with Leonie, and really fleshes her out a lot. So I enjoy the way she just, I enjoy her attitude. The one support I don't like, of course, is the Bite V support, because it feels horribly timed. I think they didn't mean to put that where it ended up being. That's my only explanation. That kind of hurts, and I think that soured Leonie for a lot of people. But for me, I was able to conveniently ignore that support and still really enjoy Leonie as a person. And then for gameplay, I don't know, Three Houses characters are like very similar feeling-ish. But I remember liking her personal support in Maddening, where she gets like +2/+2, damage taken, damage dealt by just standing next to a dude, because she's competitive like that. And that makes her actually one of the best units in the early game, which is super funny. And then she has like some good class options for her as well. She's viable no matter what you want to do. She can like fly or be on a horse, or be good with bows. Bows are always a great plus in Maddening, especially. So she always like feels pretty good to use. Never really had any trouble with her, but I haven't really used her actively outside of my very first playthrough. So it's not the most accurate depiction of her unit quality or her unit feel in that regard. But I just like Leonie. She seems pretty good. One thing I will note about Leonie, I did gain a lot of appreciation for her when I did the Blue Lions low turn count playthrough, or I commentated that. I didn't play it, but I commentated it. And it was written on my notes that Leonie, when she's joined from out of house, has similar base stats to Catherine as a swordmaster, even though she's like an unpromoted cavalier, and Catherine is like like I said, a swordmaster. And then she has like much better long-term prospects as well. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. This says a lot about how strong Leonie actually is. So yeah, feels pretty good. And Golden Deer, you and me, stuff like that. Golden Deer good.
I'm playing Golden Deer for the first time, kind of on and off right now on Maddening, because I can't help myself. I want the Golden Shower title screen, and
the Golden Deer for Golden Shower, is that the stream title?
Yes. I think for Three Houses characters, yeah, we probably brought this up last time we talked about Three Houses characters, but yeah, supports is like the big thing. I think that attaches you to them, because so many characters feel super samey, because everybody can use all the different weapon types. Outside of like some personal combat arts, you're really doing like classes are doing a lot of lifting. Certain things are like uniform across all characters, like the proficiency skills or weight -3 or anything like that. So like you really have to, it's kind of like FE12 in the way where like if you're not judging it off of supports, you really have to like kind of dig deep to find things to make characters unique. And if you get really into that, then you're gonna love it. Although I guess in the FE12 comparison, at least this game does have better supports than that game, which really only has the one highlight of Belf telling Chris that anybody can open a door. Do you want to give it a try? But in my Maddening run, which I've surprisingly not had a ton of trouble with, but it's at the cost of spending, way too much time just trying to like build these characters in the monastery and through tutoring and everything. What I really appreciate about Leonie is that because of the point blank volley, she does not require that much work to become really good. I feel like with some characters, like you really have to like kind of sit there, micromanage out all of these like tutoring sessions and all this usage and send them through multiple classes if you're playing, at a more casual pace. Whereas Leonie doesn't care about like, Pegasus Knight, for example. She doesn't need speed. She's just going to like use point blank volley. And so it's very easy to just get her going to where she needs to be from like a gameplay perspective.
So for my reference, what are you making her? What are you doing with her for like tutoring and classes?
for tutoring, I'm just like at this point I'm just rushing down A bows. I am doing I did fighter, brigand to stack strength +2 and death blow, and then I'm gonna have her like she just has enough freedom to just to get both wyvern and bow knight, because her base lance strength is so good, so she can just kind of swap between those as she needs it. I think the big thing that hurts unit feel in Maddening is the EXP cut. Yeah. Because I think what they should have just done is that, knowing that your stats don't matter anyway because the enemies are so power crept, especially in part 2, that just have the normal EXP gain so that we can just get to the fun classes earlier. That's just frustrating. So it kind of gives her rip these golden deer characters because they really are struggling to feel fun because Maddening has just slowed them down so much. And like I said, I've never played Golden Deer, so Leonie had the unfortunate first impression of everything you see of her out of house is just Geralt this, Geralt that, horrible B support.
Yes.
So, like, yeah. Yikes. So, like, I'm having fun now, but it's like FE1 bad game feel at the moment. But no, she's pretty good and is like actually a much better character. I can appreciate now, having gotten to see more of her, Golden Deer supports, where she gets to have a personality for once.
All right, that's fair. Okay, put you up here. One last thought I want to add. I think Maddening was intended for New Game Plus. I don't think they properly tested it for New Game normally. Even though they implemented the Golden Shower for being in it without New Game Plus, which I appreciate the challenge of it. But I can also tell
Golden Shower's just bait.
Yeah, it will bait XP curve better for you. I did one playthrough of Maddening New Game Plus without showing it on streams or anything, and actually had a lot more fun than playing Maddening normally, even though Maddening normally has the fun of optimization if you're into that. But Three Houses just doesn't respect your time at all if you're playing a new game. So
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, if you want to have fun with Three Houses, I would definitely recommend Maddening New Game Plus for a change. I don't think I've seen New Game Plus recommended a whole lot. I'm counting characters right now. We got 4 in here, 2 in here, that's 6, and then 1 in here is 7, and we have 7 left. So I think this might be a good time to wrap it up actually, and we have like a solid next time on. So if you like introduce Three Houses, tiered 1 character, and then call it a day. But I think if we win the Casper now, we just go like way over an hour, and we have like a shorter time next time.
Yeah, and this next, giving it another week gives me a chance to still not use Cyril, so...
Yeah. Hey, look, Cyril's really good in Three Houses too, in Golden Deer especially. No. But hey, look, your loss, man. Yeah. Your loss.
Yeah, no, look, I see it. It's all on paper. I see it, but we'll get to that next time, I suppose.
For sure. All right. I look forward to next time finishing off Three Houses and doing Warriors Tiki at the very last.
God, I'm so excited for Fire Emblem Warrior. We'll just do a Unit Feel Warriors special just for the whole game.
Yeah, I should like next month just ask everyone to submit Warriors characters.
Yes.
You have my support if you do that.
Yes.
All right. That's it for today. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Bopper. You have passed your test. Thanks, sidekick.
Right.